Okay, we're back for the reading and reading analysis part of the lesson on Stagecoach Mary Fields, which is part of our overall unit and lesson that has to do with how African American history is American history. And I got that name from a YouTube channel, and they've also done a story on Stagecoach Mary Fields, and I encourage you to link to it at the top of the page. So let's go back to our assignment. This is part one of Stagecoach Mary Fields. All right, I'm going to pause now and then open up the assignment, and I hope you do too. Thanks. All right, so we started this. I told you that this is the link to a story about her, and this is the reading that I first read. And we've already done the first part of this story. We read, or this lesson, I should say, we read about the field of knowledge. The field of knowledge is the experiences, the ideas that are in something that we read. And the ideas and the experience of what we read is in knowing the people, places, things, ideas, the nouns, which are also known as the participants, the actions or processes, which are made by verbs, the descriptions or characteristics, which are made by adjectives, and the circumstances of where, when, how things happen. And that's made with prepositions or adverbs. So that's the field of knowledge, or the field of a text. And so we are now going to read this text, which was written by Roman Mikel. And this text is about Stagecoach Mary Fields. And what we're going to do is we're going to highlight for the different parts of the field of knowledge. And when you highlight it, you really begin to see how meaning is made. How is the meaning, how is the story of this told to you? Well, it's told to you by creating the field. So here is our key for a functional language. And what we're going to do is we're going to follow this key. So instructions: read and highlight using functional language analysis. Here is a recount of the legend of Stagecoach Mary, written by Roman Mikel. Think about how the reader tells the story. Notice and discuss the field, the information, and the tenor, the feeling or the sense that you get, the emotions. So we're going to read the story, and I'm going to start by going to my draw function here, and I'm going to highlight using pink to start. I'm going to start by finding the action words, the processes. And actions or processes are made by verbs in English. So we're particularly looking for the verbs that give us a sense of time, of when this happens. So let's read this together. She drank whiskey, swore often, and smoked handmade cigars. She wore pants under her skirt and a gun under her apron. At 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, Mary Fields was an intimidating woman. So let's find the action words, processes. She drank, she swore, she smoked. Sound like they start with, ooh, she sounds a little dangerous. She sounds a little, like she's maybe a tough woman. You remember, this is the Wild West. So she drank, she swore, she smoked. Those are the three verbs that we start off with, of the three processes. She wore pants under her skirt and a gun under her apron. Doesn't this begin to tell you about what kind of woman she is? At 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, Mary Fields was an intimidating woman. So there in the first paragraph, we have the action words. Let's look for participants. I'm going to change colors here and go with yellow. And these are going to be the people, the places, the things, the ideas, the events, also known as the participants or the entities. And participants or entities are made with nouns. So let's find some of the nouns here. She is a pronoun. Whiskey is definitely a thing. She drank whiskey. She swore often and smoked handmade cigars. Handmade was one of our vocabulary words. She wore pants under her skirt and a gun under her apron. So these are the things that we have. At 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, so tall and pounds are ideas of measurement, Mary Fields was an intimidating woman. So in that first paragraph, we've done the participants, we've done the processes, the action words in pink, and now we've done the participants in yellow. Let's switch to blue for the light blue. Let's switch to light blue for the descriptions and the characteristics, which are often made by adjectives. So she drank whiskey, swore often, smoked handmade cigars. She didn't smoke any cigars. She smoked handmade cigars. That gives us information or a description of what kind of cigars. She wore pants under her skirt and a gun under her apron. At 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, these are the characteristics of the properties of her height and her weight or her mass, if we want to do science. Mary Fields was an intimidating woman. She wasn't just any woman. She was an intimidating woman. That describes what kind of a woman she was. So there we have our adjectives, our properties, characteristics, descriptions. Now let's switch to the last section, or the last aspect of field that we're going to analyze for, and that is circumstances. The circumstances. And the circumstances tell us when things happened, or how things happened, or where things happened. When, where, and how. So she drank whiskey often. When did she drink it? She often drank it, and swore often, rather. She smoked handmade cigars. She wore pants under her skirt. Where did she wear the pants? They were under her skirt. And a gun. Where was the gun? Under her apron. Where is the gun? Under the apron. Where are the pants? Under the skirt. And at 6 feet tall, she was an intimidating woman. All right. So there you go. There are our circumstances. So let's read the next paragraph and we will highlight it again. I'm going to switch back to pink, and as I read, I'm going to highlight the the verbs, the action words. Mary lived in Montana in a town called Cascade. She was a special member of the community there. All schools would close on her birthday. And though women were not allowed, and I'm going to make that all one action, were not allowed entry into saloons, she was given, I'm going to make those two words one action, she was given special permission by the mayor to come in anytime to any saloon that she liked. She liked is an action. But Mary wasn't originally from Montana. She was born into enslavement in Tennessee sometime in the early 1830s and lived enslaved for more than 30 years until slavery was abolished. See how these are all the actions, the processes of her life. As a free woman, life led her first to Florida to work for a family and then Ohio when part of the family moved. All right, so now we have a sense of the actions in the second paragraph, the processes. let's move on and let's reread that. And this time we will highlight for the participants, people, places, things, ideas. And what we'll find is that what we'll really be doing is we'll be finding the nouns or the noun phrases. So Mary, person, Montana, place, town, Cascade, the name of the town. She is a pronoun. She is a participant, really. Special member of the community. All schools would close on her birthday. And though women were not allowed entry into saloons, she was given a special permission by the mayor to come in anytime to any saloon she liked. But Mary wasn't originally from Montana. She was born into enslavement. Enslavement is an idea. Enslavement is an idea here. So it is a participant. It is a noun. It's a thing. In Tennessee, sometime in the early 1830s, and we could highlight that too, because that is a thing or an idea. It's a time, and lived enslaved for more than 30 years until slavery was abolished in 1865. As a free woman, life led her first to Florida to work for a family, and then Ohio, when part of the family, and I'm going to call that one thing. Even though it's 4 words, I'm going to call it one thing or one idea. So there we have it. We now have the action words or the processes in pink, and we have the participants, most of the participants. I left some out because I really, this isn't an exact science. We're trying to get the basic idea of things. I could have gone up here and done the pronouns, but I'm just going to go for the big ideas. And we know that she is Mary Fields, and that's an important participant here, so we could do that. And like I said, the year itself could be a participant. But let's move on and do the adjectives. And adjectives, the word type is adjective. What do adjectives do? They describe. They give us the characteristics or the properties. If in science class, we call these the properties of things. All right. Mary lived in Montana in a town called Cascade. She was a special member. She wasn't just any member. What kind of a member was she? She was a special member. So that describes what kind of a member she was. Of the community there, all schools would close on her birthday. Whose birthday? Her birthday. It wasn't just any birthday. It was Mary's birthday. It was her birthday. And although women were not allowed entry into saloons, she was given permission. What kind of permission? Special permission. It's not just any permission. It's described as a special permission. So we highlight special there as a description or a characteristic of the permission. By the mayor to come in anytime into any saloon she liked. But Mary wasn't originally from Montana. She was born into enslavement in Tennessee sometime in the early 1830s. Early is a description. And lived enslaved for more than 30 years. 30 tells us how many. We could call that circumstances, but I'm going to call it an adjective here. Again, it's not an exact science. This gives us a sense of how we understand what we're reading and making meaning of this text. As a free woman, kind of a woman? A free woman. So there's a description of what kind of a woman she was here. She was a free woman. Led her life first to Florida to work for a family, and then part of a family, when part of the family moved. And the last section here we're going to do is our prepositions. Preposition is the word of the word type. That's what kind of words these are. Pre, before, position, before you place things. So it gives us an idea of where the position is in time or where the position is in place. That's what those words do. And those are called the circumstances. And circumstance actually means what's happening around you, where you're standing around you. Circum, around, stance, where you're standing. Circumstance, what's happening around you. So where? In Montana. Mary lived in Montana. Where? In a town. Special member of the community. All schools would close. When would they close? On her birthday. And although women were not allowed entry, where weren't they allowed? They weren't allowed into saloons. She was given a special permission by the mayor to come in anytime to any saloon she liked. But originally, how was it? It wasn't original. So that's actually a how word. From Montana. She was born into enslavement. Where? In Tennessee. When? In the early 1830s, and lived enslaved for more than 30 years. Until when? Until slavery was abolished. When was slavery abolished? In 1865. As a free woman, life led her first to Florida to work for a family, and then to Ohio when part of the family moved. So these give us a sense, these words give us a sense of when and where, and that creates the circumstance. Now, this whole section is for you to do. So I want you to do all this section. I want you to find the action words, the processes. I want you to find the participants, the nouns and noun groups, people, places, things, ideas. I want you to find the adjectives, which give a description or a characteristic. And then the circumstances of where and when. And those are going to be prepositions. The type of word is preposition, or the type of word is adverb. And then in section 4, we're going to make a list of the words that we find for each different group. For example, let's go way to the top. Here we have whiskey as one of our first participants, and drank as a verb or an action word, process. So let's get down here, and what I'm going to, oops, I need to change from highlighting to typing. So, I think that's an EY. So whiskey is one of the first entities, and drank is one of the first action words or processes. Property, characteristic, a description, characteristic. Handmade cigars, handmade. So that is a quality or an adjective, handmade. And that was one of our vocabulary words, as I said earlier. So those are properties or characteristics of the cigars. Circumstances. When did things happen? Where did things happen? She swore often. She wore pants under her skirt. She wore a gun under her apron. And so we can say that one of the circumstances of where she kept her gun or where she wore her pants, under the skirt, under the apron. So that tells us where things happen. And so I want you to make a list. And what you'll notice is that if you use this document, I've already color coded for you. So if you start typing in here, it will match the color that you've highlighted. And then lastly, as I told you in the last video, these 3 words are defined in this text, and I'd like you to find the definition based on textual evidence. And I'm just going to highlight that, and then I'm going to say adios. Based on textual evidence. So make sure that you define these not from Google or the dictionary, but define these terms based on what is written here. Thank you so much. I really am grateful to be your teacher, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video on the next lesson, which is Mary Fields Part 2. Take care, everybody. Thank you for your hard work.